Yes, this is your favorite show, Sports Unfolded, with your favorite hosts, Eric and Ron.
Hey, welcome to Sports Unfolded, Season 3, Episode 32, Getting Dropped. We're featuring Mitchell Belacone today. A very special guest. We'll do an interview shortly with Mitchell. He is backstage waiting patiently. Manny, thank you for joining already live. Appreciate you, my man. I am your host, Eric, the host of the greatest sports talk show on the internet, with my main man right there. Ron, how are you tonight?
On anything.
Regular
Let's
TV.
be real with this.
You need to cut the cords. You don't need cable. You don't need dish TV, direct TV, none of them. All you need is a computer. And then James, thanks for joining live as well. All our guys are here tonight. We're just waiting on my main man Kenny as well, big dog. Hopefully he's joining. So much to cover tonight. Really excited about this show, Ron. A lot going on in the sports world as usual. Never ends. And that, like I said, guys, stay tuned. You can ask questions of Mitchell Belacone. He is an author of Lance Armstrong's Crucifiers Get Dropped. It's a very interesting book. You guys, if you have any questions while he's on, you feel free to ask as well. But we are going to start off with our leadoff story, Ron, and that is one New England Patriots. And they opened their the season opener last night versus the Houston Texans. Losing that matchup. Basically, what were your thoughts on the team itself? What you saw, what you witnessed last night?
I no matter what, I think it's ugly, considering that it is the Houston Texans. The Houston Texans are terrible. I'm sorry, and I saw Stroud come out there. He is not ready to be a starter.
Not at all. That was definitely
not
evident.
Ready. Mills is much better at this point. I think it would be terrible if they don't have Mills as the starter. But it's also terrible if he is the starter. So I mean, it is just going to be a dreadful season for Houston.
Yeah.
Now. But that doesn't make it any easier for the Patriots because they just lost to that. Yeah, I know it's a preseason game, but that's ugly. That's ugly.
Manny's already got him working at McDonald's. James said he called it, right? He called Houston. He did pick Houston in his predictions last week. I will say this. I was a little shocked that the number ones didn't play for New England on offense, especially with the fact that you're trying to get Mac acclimated to Bill O'Brien's system. You just assume that you would see some of those starters out there, even if it was 2 series. They kept Bailey Zappi in there for quite some time. I was a little confused as to why. I will say this too. The offensive line is going to be a problem because there is no legitimate backups. You have a starter go down. Those guys looked absolutely horrible last night. Yeah. That offensive line did not look good at all. There's no depth at running back. They need to pick up somebody hopefully sooner than later, and not let one of those guys go to another team because they're going to be struggling. If they don't get, and I hate to say, even an Ezekiel Elliott, it's an upgrade over what they have right now at running back for a backup.
Yeah, no, I mean, this is puzzle work, right? You're putting the pieces together, and just some of them aren't fitting. You know, you always get towards the end where you're trying to put one in. It's like, well, why doesn't this fit here? It looks like it fits. You know, it's got all the colors that you need to fit that puzzle, but it just won't go in. And I think they're going to have a hard time putting those pieces together on that offensive line to make it work, because you know there's going to be some injuries. And whether they're out for 2 games or 3 games or 7, you know, that's going to be a problem.
I put a post up on MeWe, a poll. And it's funny, we've gotten some responses from that. And a lot of people, you're not Patriot fans if you don't think they're going to win more than 10 games. And I'm saying, no, we're realists. I think you have to understand this team right now is in a transition. And the only thing that's going to save them is Mac Jones. If Mac Jones performs to a level where he can get the team better offensively, that's the only chance they have, because they don't have a lot of depth. They don't have offensive weapons. Tyquan Thornton looked okay yesterday, but again, we've seen flashes of him and he faded away. So let's see. Again, we didn't get to see the true number ones. Maybe that makes a difference. I did like what I saw defensively. I liked what I saw from some of the depth there, the defensive line, the linebackers. Christian Gonzalez, the number one pick. He had 2 tackles plus the fumble. Looked like he felt comfortable in the defense. That was a good one. Keon White, remember that name, people?
Yeah, he looked good.
Going to be a steal. He's going to be a steal. They've talked about him and raved about him in camp. He looks good. He looked good.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think they got a couple of players that they can really build, down, in the future, and look, I mean, we know all the chatter the last couple of seasons about Mac Jones. I do believe that Mac Jones has the ability to lead this team, and he could be, look, he could be a guy that can bring you to a Super Bowl, as long as that intelligence is there and, they don't start developing, that happy feet that we once associated with Drew Bledsoe. Because at times you give Drew Bledsoe the offensive line, he's going to pick you apart. And if you give Mac Jones time, his brain power is way up there, and that alone can make you pick apart a team that just isn't ready for that.
Yeah.
But you got to give him time.
Yeah, and I also think, look, preseason, we all know this. James, I know, is a huge football fan. Manny, a huge football fan as well. A lot of teams don't show you much in preseason.
Right.
It's a very vanilla offense. They're not going to do a lot. So, again, I don't think you saw what Bill O'Brien's going to bring to the table. I think that'll make a difference. Again, we see the number ones.
Yep.
I am intrigued, though, Ron, and I will say this. Malik Cunningham came in the fourth quarter, and I don't know if I was seeing Lamar Jackson, the young Lamar Jackson, but this kid has some wheels on him. I like that element. I would like to see them kind of utilize him in the offense this season, maybe to make some things. Malik did one drive, then yeah, right. Again, he looked comfortable. He was making moves. He was running around. He looked fast, and that's NFL speed still going. Even if it's their third string guys, that's still fast talent on the other side of the ball, and they couldn't catch him. I liked what I saw from him. I'd like to see them. I'm not a big 2 quarterback guy, but I wouldn't be opposed to it here and there. Throw him in and just put a wrinkle in.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know about that. I don't like that idea of putting him in, and doing all these like wildcat crap and stuff like that.
He's
I'm
still
not
a quarterback,
big fan of
though.
that. It doesn't
He's
matter.
a quarterback. So it's not the wildcat. It's.
I'm just saying, I don't like all that extra stuff, because when you have more than one quarterback, you don't have any.
Oh boy, here we go. The genius is in the house today, people.
I'm just saying. If they're gonna try all that stuff, then it's gimmicks, and that runs out against good teams.
You have to get tricky, right? I think James is right there too. I think, look, at some point you got to do something different. It's an element that New England's never had. I think
how about paying players? How about doing that differently?
I get it, but I'm saying what you have this year, that's what you're dealing with.
Right. But if you want to do something different, pay the guys that you need to have there.
Well, they did up Matthew Judon, increased his salary and made him, a Patriot now probably for a while. If you give me some wins, I'd take it. Yeah, right. If he gives you some wins, ultimately that's what matters in the NFL. You got to win some games.
Yeah, good players also win games.
Sometimes you hope. Not necessarily. Doesn't always matter.
I mean, to have a receiver would be nice in order to catch the ball. Just a thought.
Okay, I mean, you have a small point. I will give you a point. Maybe not even a full point. I'll give you a half a point on that. But that is our discussion on our leadoff story, and we do want to now bring in Mitchell Belacone. He is the author of the book Lance Armstrong's Crucify As Get Dropped. It is available on Amazon. You can purchase your copy today. Mitchell, thank you for joining us. How are you tonight?
Doing well. Thanks for having me.
So before we get started, could you give us a brief introduction about yourself, like where you're from, some of your background, how you got into writing?
I grew up in New York City on the Upper West Side, and I got into writing as a fun thing to do. Enjoyed it. Started out as a hobby, and now I've got 4 books out. So I wouldn't say I'm getting rich with it, but it's finally going into the black a little bit. So.
There you go. And I hopefully we can help you with that as well.
All right. I hope so.
So I'm going to bring up the book cover itself so that people can see it here. But could you give us a brief description on the book itself and what it's roughly about?
Well, there's a lot of stories in there. It's a book of short stories, and the Armstrong story is the lead one. So I'll go with that. And it's mostly a different look at Armstrong, because obviously he's been crucified in the public. And this book looks at the positive things he's done and compares him to a lot of other people that have done a lot worse things that have had nothing happen to them, excuse me.
Yeah. So were you a fan of Armstrong when he was competing, and it kind of got your interest in writing something about Lance Armstrong, or was this something that just came about as you were looking at the whole incident and what happened with Lance Armstrong in his career?
Well, it came about because I saw a whole mob of hypocrites and a lot of brainwashed people by the press that he's this horrible person. He's the whipping boy for everybody. So that's how it came about. But as being a fan of cycling, it goes back a ways. I was a fan of cycling from the '64 Tokyo Olympics. It caught my eye. I used to watch the Tour de France when I could get pieces of it before any Americans were in it. And it wasn't ingrained in our culture as it was in Europe. And I remember there was an interview with I'm going about your question in a long way.
That's okay.
There was an interview with a French cyclist, and they asked him, "Why do you think no Americans are winning the Tour de France?" And he said, "Well, maybe they don't have the heart for it." And then I thought, well, my father crawled on your beach 3 days after D-Day and stayed there till the end of the war, and you people surrendered in 6 weeks to the Nazis. So when that guy started talking about heart, so getting back to the question, anytime any American cyclist does well, I'm rooting for him. Not only because he's American and that, but that revved my motor forever. That comment from that French cyclist.
I can see why. I think we all got a little revved off of that comment. Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
Why do you think people should have a different opinion of Lance Armstrong after all of his scandals, everything we've known about what he did to, I guess, PEDs, performance enhancing drugs, and what he was able to do to win? Why should we have a different opinion? Why do you believe, Mitchell, that should be different?
Well, of his 7 Tour de France victories, of the 21 podium finishers, the top 3 places, there was only 1 that wasn't tainted by a drug scandal, which means all those winners were doing the same thing. And actually, to compete in the sport, there was no way to compete. There was no chance of winning unless you took these drugs. So as a young kid, he's 22, he gets started on this path, and he's doing it better than other people. And there's really no way to back out of it without blighting your career and his big charity that was raising a lot of money for cancer victims. And then he was a whipping boy, like he's destroying cycling. Well, the year before he started winning his tours, there was a drug scandal before him, which put the sport in shambles. and the teams were dropping out of the race. They were stopping in protest, and the Tour de France was blighted. His comeback story actually resuscitated cycling in the Tour de France. But they built up the hero, and
to knock him down.
As the cliche goes, they tore him down.
Yeah.
And they say part of it was he was a mean guy. He was nice. And my question is, why does that affect his cycling performance? Do you need a charm school diploma to keep your records? You know, you compare it to other sports, the 3 home run leaders, Barry Bonds, Mark McGwire, Sammy Sosa, all-time home run leaders. There's not even an asterisk after their names.
Yeah.
And why does he get wiped off the map?
I agree. And listen, me and Ron argue about this a lot, but we do have a question from Stephanie out in the chat. Could the anger be because people believed he was better than that? Do you think maybe it was a personal opinion that they felt he was above all of that stuff and he was winning? Possibly, I believe that's how she's asking the question. Because they just felt he was clean. He had protested for so long and proclaimed himself to be this clean cyclist. That
I'm sure that was part of it. Of course, you know, if the microphone was in front of him lying constantly, of course that's going to be part of it. But if they had put the microphone in anybody else's face, the same thing would have happened. They would have said, no, I'm clean. And if you look at some of these other interviews, they were all doing that and claiming their innocence until they got jail was staring them in the face. Then everybody got their morality back and their honesty back.
Yeah. So do you think his detractors hold or took away some of his accomplishments based on the fact that he was kind of mean-spirited about it? He was so adamant in denial and basically test me all you want, do what you want to do to me. I am clean. Do you think that's why possibly they took away all of his accomplishments?
I'm sure that's a part of it. And I'm claiming it shouldn't be. You know, he also, his charity, which was rated, some of the rating agencies for charities rated it the highest of any sports related charity, raised $500 million for cancer victims. Never hear a word about that. The only thing they'll say, he had self-interest in that, where nobody really knows his motivation for that other than him. The bottom line, $500 million, and it would have continued skyrocketing had not they knocked him off of that.
No,
which I'm not saying wasn't the right thing to do, because he was the guy that got caught. But that being said, there's a good side to him also. And again, a little bit of a repetition. When they caught him, they started with the drugs at a very young age to compete, and everybody lied. That's all they did. It was just one big conspiracy to keep everybody out of it. So he was the front man to take the beating. But a lot of other people that did the same thing as him did not get lifetime bans. So it was the injustice of it. And,
so,
you know, go ahead.
Yeah, you mentioned Barry Bonds, right? The all-time home runs leader. And because Lance won more than anybody else, is that why you think he became the scapegoat? If he was a guy that won one Tour de France, would we be talking about Lance Armstrong as we do today?
Probably not. But, you know, he got built up to such a huge level, flying in private jets, the rock star girlfriend, all that.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, he was just waiting to get shot down. So, of course, that's a part of it, but it doesn't necessarily make it right. I mean, they didn't take the thing and say, let's look at this in perspective as to who he is and what other players were. They just took it like, you know, you'll see documentaries on him like he's the all-time criminal con man of all time. He wasn't. He did what everybody else did.
Yes. Yeah. We've also we've kind of bickered back and forth, me and Ron, in the past about the fact it's just a little bit. Yes. But it was the same thing with baseball. Everybody was doing steroids. So right. How do you take a guy and say he doesn't count because he got accused of it? Barry Bonds was never tested positive. Obviously a little different than Lance Armstrong, because once we knew and it all came out. But at the same time, to your point, Mitchell, so many guys were doing it. If he would have never won anything if he didn't go that route. Is that what you're kind of saying?
Yeah, that's exactly what I'm saying. It's the fact that he won, that he was out front, that he was a celebrity. And again, they were asking him more than anybody else, did you cheat? No, I didn't cheat. They weren't asking the people that didn't win anything or came in second, did you cheat?
Yeah.
No, they didn't care. They weren't dating rock stars.
Yes. Yeah. So, can you give us the biggest reason people should read this book? What would you say if somebody say, why should I read this book?
It's going to give you an entirely new perspective on Armstrong. And on top of that, I think I helped to demonstrate the hypocrisy of so many organizations that knocked him, mass media and and I compare him to other groups of people that are bigger cheaters and do worse harm than Armstrong did. So, and I like to think it's an entertaining read in its own right, even with a little humor punched in there.
Another question by Stephanie. Why do you think he didn't quit while he was ahead? While he was ahead?
Well, obviously a big mistake. he could have rode away into the sunset, and then he came back a couple of years later to try to win again. And I guess all the winning went to his head, and he had gotten away with it for so long. But yeah,
we see that complex a lot with athletes, where when they're doing stuff, they see how far they can push the envelope. And we saw it. Who was that? Ron, one of your favorite players from Texas, Rafael Palmeiro. He went in front of Congress and said, absolutely, I did not. Right. Because they were going to see how far they could take this thing.
Yeah, he was one of my favorite players. I thought he had like the perfect swing. You know, he just went out there and did his job. And then when that all came out, it kind of broke my heart. And I think, and now that we talk about this with Lance Armstrong, I feel maybe the bitterness of him being one of my favorite players, you know, might have really, you know, spurred me in a way that's probably why to this day I don't like the steroid users.
Yeah, look,
you know,
I think the same thing happened with Lance Armstrong, and I think we all put him so high on a pedestal because, to your point, Mitchell, Americans don't win the Tour de France. And here we had now we could brag about it. We could say, hey, look at us. We are crushing it. We are the best ever.
Yeah. Greg LeMond was the first. He won 3 tours, and he also had a comeback story. He got in a hunting accident and was loaded with shotgun pellets and came back a year later or 2 years later to win his 3rd tour. But he's also an antagonist in my book because he tears into Armstrong, where he helps bring Armstrong down. And it struck me as odd that he was the best cyclist in American history, and now all of a sudden he's in the audience of all these interviews asking pointed questions. Like, maybe you wanted to go back to your throne as the #1 cyclist. It wasn't, to my thinking, it wasn't his place to do what he did.
Agreed. And to your point, he probably was doing something to get back and make that comeback. These things weren't invented with Lance Armstrong. They were invented well before Lance Armstrong.
Yeah, these guys don't get to where they are without big egos.
Yeah, that's a fact. That's a fact. So once again, we are talking to author Mitchell Belacone. He is the author of Crucifiers Get Dropped. It's a book about Lance Armstrong, but also several other cycling stories in there. We've had the pleasure of talking to Mitchell tonight. Mitchell, before you go, I always try to ask a little off question, have some fun with it. And I'm not going to ask you a Jets question. We talked before the show, and I'll kind of keep that out of it.
That's your buddy that's the hurtful guy.
Yeah, yes, he is. Yes, he is. So I will ask you this. All things being fair, how would you rate yourself versus Lance Armstrong in a race? If you had to race with Lance Armstrong, how well do you think you would do?
Oh, no doubt I'd kill him. This is when he was on his hospital bed with a 35% chance of living. Yeah. Then I would have whaled him. Okay. A quick funny story, because he told a story when he got off the hospital bed. He felt great. He was riding up a mountain on his racing bike, and a middle-aged lady passed him on a mountain bike. and he was thinking, and that brought him back to reality.
Yeah, you still got a ways to go, right? Yeah,
Yeah.
got a ways to go. So once again, I want to thank you, Mitchell, for taking some time tonight to join us. The book is Crucifiers Get Dropped. It is on Amazon now. You can purchase that in any form. I believe it's on Kindle as well. So
Right.
you can get the hard copy, or on Kindle. I would highly advise it. You've been great tonight, Mitchell. Do you have anything for us before you go?
No, I appreciate very much what you guys have had me on, and I'll tune into your show, particularly this year when the Jets are finally going to surpass New England.
I hope you do. Maybe we'll bring you back on and we'll talk about the Jets then. Mitchell Belacone, author of Crucifiers
Lance Armstrong's Crucifiers Get Dropped.
Thank you very much. Check it out. Amazon.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for joining us again. Take care.
Bye-bye.
Great interview. I really
that was good. That was great.
I had a good time talking. Listen, there's so many different ways to look at it, and me and you kind of argue back and forth, and he's right. You know, those who live in glass houses shouldn't throw stones, and I think that's what this book is going to get you to see, is that you can make accusations, but if you were kind of in that world as well, it's really not your place to do that. So.
Right. And there's, like you said, there's so many ways to look at this, and it's so hard, because when you're taking an American hero and you taint that legacy, it's so hard to rethink about the whole situation. It's very difficult for a human being to erase what they know, and then look at it some other angle. And it's hard once people have their minds made up. It's almost a guarantee they're never going to change their mind.
Yeah.
And that's hard. Like I said, he was an American hero, and then it's like, now he's an afterthought.
You don't even talk about him. And I want to thank Stephanie, who's joined us live. Thank you for the questions. Those were great as well. But we move on. We're going to talk a little more NFL here, my friend, and we're going to talk about the Denver Broncos. They have decided to start Russell Wilson tonight for their preseason opener. Do you agree with the move?
In a case like this, I actually do. Because they were so bad, and he was so bad last season. I think he had to get in there, and he has to try to prove to, everybody that he can still, be the guy to lead a team to, the playoffs or potentially
the same guy. Stephanie, maybe this book will help change your mind. So, you never know. Listen, that's why we try to do these things, right? I will say this. I agree with you 100%. Look, he suffered his worst season as a pro. Lowest completion percentage at 60.5, which still sounds really good when you compare some of the other quarterbacks, but that was his lowest of his career. Fewest touchdown passes thrown at 16. Also had a career high in sacks, 55. So again, wasn't the same mobile quarterback we're used to seeing. And his lowest QBR in his career at 36.7. So I think Sean Payton's trying to prove, right? Sean Payton's trying to prove a point here. Look, nobody's above the team. And I think Russell Wilson came in last season. I am the man. I have my own personal trainers. I go with my own guys. I do my own thing. Right now, Sean Payton saying, this is our team. You're going to be as accountable as everybody else, the player next to you, the man next to you. And they're going to make him have to sit back and think about how bad he wants to get back to those winning ways. You're right. Great. I think this is Sean Payton's first true mark on this team.
Oh, absolutely. I think this is brilliant. I think this is saying, you're not my choice of quarterbacks. And, so we need to make sure that you are the guy for this team. And this is him telling, Russell that you need to prove it to me because I'm not sold on you right now.
Yeah, culture's going to change in that organization, and I think it's going to be a big thing. It's a team with a lot to prove, right? And again, very tough division. So I think when you look at the AFC West last season, we thought all those teams were making the playoffs based on their roster, and Denver was the worst team out of the bunch. So how does Sean Payton clean that up and make them winners again? They do. They have a lot to prove, James. I think you hit the nail on the head.
Yeah, like you have so much to worry about, and they came into last season thinking that they had that problem solved, and everybody was looking. It's like, wow, you're adding a quarterback to what should be a pretty good team, and then it falls flat. So why is that? Is it just the coaching, or was there more to it? And I'll tell you, Peyton's been around.
Yeah.
I mean, he had some good players in New Orleans, and he can do wonders with those kind of players. Now, does Russell Wilson still have it? Is the question.
Yeah.
And this is what he's asking right now.
Listen, the great quarterbacks that we know of recent time, Peyton Manning, Tom Brady, Drew Brees, these guys work harder than anybody else.
Yeah.
You got to see the same mentality from Russell Wilson. And I think that's what Peyton's going to say. Look, all this free ride thing that you had going on, Broncos country, let's ride, and all the things. Listen, now you got to get on that. You got to get in that car and you got to drive. You got to drive, man. You got to be the owner of that vehicle. So it's going to be fun to see. I'm looking forward to some of these preseason matchups the next 2 days as well. We will do some on our predictions, but we've got so a fun. I thought you didn't think so, Ron. I found a lot of Troy's. So we are going on to our starting five, and this one to me, James pointed this one out. This was his pick, Troy. Haha, I got a few. I had a bunch of Troy's. I was excited. I start us off tonight, but I've got to start with my honorable
mentions. You got
mentions.
a bunch, but I don't know what it is.
A bunch of something. James as well, if you can give us yours as we're going along, but we're going to start with our honorable mentions. And my honorable mentions, I had Troy Brown, the great New England wide receiver, 557 receptions, his 3 championships. Troy Percival, 358 saves, 4 All-Stars, and he won a championship. Was a solid closer. Troy Murray, 584 points in the NHL, 1 cup, 1 Selke. I know a Troy. Yeah, we know you know a Troy, Manny. The Cowboy fans out there. Troy Deeney, 170 goals. He was a soccer player. So again, over his career, not bad. 170 goals would take that. And Troy Dumas is a swimmer. He won 1 gold, 5 silver, 6 bronze. He won a bronze in 2012 Olympics. Those were my honorable mentions.
Yeah, I actually had all but one of those guys on my honorable mention, and I had Troy Bayliss. Do you know who Troy Bayliss is?
He cracked my top 5. Yes, I know who Troy Bayliss is.
All right.
He's on my top 5, sir.
Okay, so,
Oh, that's right, James. We brought it this week because I was not going to let you win again, James. James came through last week.
52 career wins.
Yep.
Superbike World Championships, 3 of them.
James got my
3 of them.
Yes.
He's an Australian motorcyclist, for those of you that do not know who he is.
Yep.
But I did have him. He was my 6th, actually.
Okay.
He was my 6th guy.
We'll
and the Olympian was number 7.
Okay. We'll give you that. All right. So I'll start us off at number 5. My 5. Starting 5, Troy Tulowitzki batted .290, 5 All-Stars, 2 Gold Gloves, 2 Silver Sluggers. Never won a championship, but in that Colorado, I mean, still a very good hitter. Batted .290 for his career. So I brought Troy Tulowitzki.
Yeah.
Troy Perkins for James. Troy Perkins.
Nice. I had Troy Gloss. former Angel.
I almost put him in.
I thought he had some injuries, and that kind of stopped his momentum.
Yeah.
And but Troy Gloss was a tremendous player. Looking at his numbers, 320 home runs, 254 batting average, but he had 889 runs and 950 RBIs, 4 All-Stars, 2 Silver Sluggers, a World Series championship, of course, and he was the World Series MVP, and that's why I had to put him in there, because he was the MVP of that series.
All right.
He was tremendous.
And we got a 2006 MLS goalie of the year. So look at us. We are expanding all across the board now here at Sports Unfolded, because there's nothing off the chart.
Yep.
All right. At 4, I had Troy Bayliss, and I just thought his numbers, 52 wins. You mentioned the 3 championship, 94 times on the podium.
Yeah.
Which means basically he finished in the top 3 94 times.
Yeah. And that's not easy to do in racing.
2,442 points in his career. The man was one of the best to do it on a bike, on a motorcycle. So I went Troy Bayliss at 4. That was my number 4.
Yeah, that's pretty good. No, I like all these guys were. I didn't have a whole lot of names for the list, but all the ones were in contention, except for maybe the top 3.
Troy Murphy, 2-time NCAA men's All-American. He went for the Troy Murphy College. Troy Murphy was in the pros.
And
10 points. I think it was
that.
10 points and I think 8 boards for his career in the pros. So okay, but not great. That's why I kept him out. But Troy Murphy, NCAA Troy Murphy, very good player. Notre Dame, right? Fighting Irish.
Yeah.
That's Troy Murphy. College days were way better. Yes, they were. Yes, they were. Ron, your number 4?
My number 4 was Troy Percival, actually.
Okay. All right.
I thought he was good enough to be in there. And when I looked at his ERA, 3.17 was pretty solid. You're coming in as a closer, 358 saves. But it was his innings pitched to strikeouts. 708 innings pitched, 781 strikeouts.
Wow.
And 4-time All-Star and a World Series champion. And I thought those numbers were tremendous.
Yeah.
He had that 4 or 5 year window where he was one of the best, and I gave him credit for that one.
No, listen, great. He was a very solid closer, very solid. This is the part where my list kind of went all NFL after this. A lot of great NFL players, and you didn't even realize it. And I know Manny's out there waiting to see his Troy be announced, but it's not yet. Will he be number 1? We'll see. But my number 3 was Troy Vincent. Troy Vincent, 893 tackles, 47 interceptions, 3 touchdowns in his career, 5-time Pro Bowler, 1-time All-Pro. Troy Vincent, who now is what? The Player Association or the league manager of discipline. Troy Bayliss. He went Bayliss at 3, James. Manny had Aikman and Palomalo 1, 2. So we'll see how we rank on those. Bayliss cracks 3. That's a good pick. That is a good pick. Troy Vincent, great pick. Troy Bayliss, listen, he could have very easily been 3 on my list as well. 3rd all time. Ron, your number 3?
My number 3 was Troy Vincent. I thought that's exactly where he should have been. And when you look at him and Palomalu, those numbers were really close.
Yeah.
But there was still something extra from Palomalu.
Yeah.
I mean, and plus that Head and Shoulders.
The hair, bro, yes. If I had it right now, it'd be blowing in the wind. But I don't know.
It did make me jealous. So I have to give.
I believe you were cast for that role.
I was,
and then they said, "Look, we need more. We need more here. Yeah, more.
Yeah. More is better, I guess."
I love these so far, James. Awesome job, Manny. Thank you. Awesome job.
Yeah. So those 5 Pro Bowls. That's pretty good. But 1 All Pro. Puts him behind the other 2 guys.
Yep. Agreed. Troy Polamalu at 2 for James. Okay. All right. I went number 2, Troy Aikman. I went Aikman ahead behind my number one guy. 94 and 71, 6-time Pro Bowler, 3-time champion. Again, had solid numbers. We know what he meant for the Dallas Cowboys back in the 90s, but you cannot deny the number one guy when I say it. And yes, wow, Manny. We are gonna explain it to you because I'm sure Ron has it the same way.
I do have it the same way, Eric.
Knew it. 3 championships.
I
Yes.
never
Okay,
had
wait.
a doubt who my number one was going to be.
Agreed.
And that is the point that I'm really saying here. It's less about Aikman, more about
Palomalo. We're going to call it right now. It's Palomalo. And I'm going to tell you, gentlemen, why. 3 versus 2 championships. But was Troy Aikman ever an All-Pro? No. 4-time All-Pro, Troy Polamalu, which means he was better at his position than anybody else those 4 years.
Yeah.
Plus, Defensive Player of the Year. 1 time.
Yep.
8-time Pro Bowler, and he got 2 championships. 783 tackles, 32 interceptions, 3 touchdowns. You cannot argue the 4 All-Pros, the Defensive Player of the Year. You cannot argue those. Championships mean everything to me. That's why it's Brady ahead of Manning. Okay, I gotcha.
Yes, but in this case, when you look at Aikman's numbers, they're not glaring. You know what I mean? It's like 94 and 71. That's a good record, but it's not overwhelming. That's not that far off.
James, I think we know who your number one
was. Like when I think of Polamalu, like I think he's a game changer. I don't consider Troy Aikman a game changer. I mean, he was a good quarterback. Let me tell you, he was good. But he wasn't a game changer. It's not like he's going out there and he just makes something out of nothing. You know, it helps when you have, Emmett back there. It helps when you have Irving back there and all the other players that they had. It helps when you have guys on the defensive side of the ball like Deion Sanders. It helps. Polamalu sometimes was on an island by himself, and he made that defense better.
The problem is, Ron, we're being overrun by Dallas Cowboys fans now, and they don't want to come to the realization that Troy, he was a great quarterback.
Yeah, but see,
he really was. But he's
this
not.
Is the typical Dallas response, right? Because they live in their glory days, which was like 50 years ago.
Woof, here we go. And here we go. We are ready to piss some people off. Palomalo.
Okay, all right. I want to. You see this this comment right here. You see that one, the game manager.
Yeah,
that's what we talked about. Trent Dilfer.
Why was Troy Aikman not an All-Pro? Nobody wants to go in the hair, right? You got the hair gives him a notch. Kenny, right? Kenny, thank you, Kenny. Well, the same about the Pats 50 years from now. Yeah, 50 years. We'll talk about it then. We'll say the same then.
Years.
But we're still living in it right now. It's still fresher to us. Super Bowl MVP though. Ooh, he got you on that one. You did go World Series MVP. Was big for you.
Yeah, Troy Aikman was ahead of him.
Okay. All right. I'm just saying. I'm trying to help James here. I think
I put him behind,
And number 2's not bad. They're making it sound like we put the guy 5th. He's not honorable mention. Troy Aikman, the second best Troy in our starting 5. Troy Polamalu, number 1, and we give him a notch because of the hair. Troy Aikman. If Troy Aikman had the same hairstyle, number 1. Number 1.
That's right.
Without a doubt. Without a doubt. Oh my goodness. Great discussion, gentlemen. Great list. Great list. Does anybody want to chime out a name for next week? Anybody? It's tough when you also have the greatest running back of all time on your team. Yeah. No, he's got a point, right? They got to hand the ball off more. His numbers, he only had 32,000 yards, I think, in his career. So that's why he goes Aikman. He's given Aikman the notch because Aikman could have done more. But Aikman also had a lot of concussions, so I think he might not have played as much anyway. But if anybody has a name, you want to throw it in there next week, starting 5, let us know as we move on. James, great list, though. Ron, great list. Listen, these are fun. I'm really having a good time with these. But we're going to talk some NBA, my friend, and we're going to talk about Giannis Antetokounmpo. Tony, did we do Tony? I don't know if we did Tony.
I thought we did.
Tony. Anthony. Did we do Anthony? Like an Anthony?
Yeah, I think we
did.
did. I think we did, Tony.
Try another one, James. Let's see what we got. Try Giannis. You think how many Giannis? Yeah, Giannis Antetokounmpo. He's not going to play for Greece, Ron, in the FIBA World Cup. Should the Bucks start to worry about this injury?
No, this is great news for the Bucks.
Well, the Bucks fans right now are doing what Giannis is doing. They're praying he's okay.
No, this is good for them. Why would they be worried? If he was to play, they'd be a little more concerned, right? Because he's not getting the rest, and then when he comes back in, then he's playing more, and he needs the rest, and then anything can happen, right? He's going to rest now. He's not going to play. So this is better for them, so the risk of further, making things worse if there was any injury concerns, it's not going to get worse.
Yeah, listen,
so he's going to get the rest. This is great.
Yeah, this is great for them because, listen, you get the rest. They were 11-8 last season without him. And again, we know in the playoffs, right, he wasn't healthy. And they try to fight through it, and they're not going to win or be in the contention without Giannis Antetokounmpo.
And I wouldn't even be surprised if Milwaukee comes out after the tournament already starts and he's not there. We expected you to play, and we would have been fine with that, right? That's what they'll do, just to make him look good, But they're crossing their fingers right now. It's oh, please let this be his real decision.
Yeah. Yeah. Did we do Eric? We've done Ron. We did Manny. We did Kenny. I don't think we did Eric yet. Top 5 Erics. What do you think?
Starting 5. LeBron Eric?
We're doing Eric. Get some love for me on this show.
Is there any good Erics? There's a Jen Eric.
That was cute. So starting 5 Erics next week, James. I know he'll come up with some really good Erics, since according to Ron. And I better be on that list.
We're not going to be on that list.
High school quarterback, bro. I was pretty good. Anyway.
What was your record?
Not very good. 4-6, believe it or not. We were one game from going to the playoffs, and I blew it. It was my fault. I never lived that down.
Player, so.
You know that? I never lived that down. I never forget that fumble. Never.
At least I won a championship.
It lives with you. Rec league. Don't count.
Rec league.
Tell them the story. You want to hear the story? I will tell the story. I remember that story. Yeah, see, these guys know my story. Downpour, torrential downpour. It was like a monsoon. My coach, the entire game, though, he's telling Eric, make sure you keep your hands. I was the starting quarterback. Keep your hands dry. Keep your hands dry. The ball's going to be slippery. Keep your hands dry. And all we did, we were on the 10-yard line, somewhere in that area, on their other end. And that's the only time I fumbled the ball. Of course, they recovered it. They scored the only touchdown of the game. We lost 6-3. That one loss, we didn't get into the playoffs.
So you lost the game.
I lost the game. And I'll live with it for the rest of my life. Live with it for the rest of my life. I'll never forget that, man. And it haunts me to this day. Anyway, great Giannis discussion, right? Bucks are making the right choice. But we're going to talk about another guy that we're probably going to have about the same mentality for, and that's Clayton Kershaw. So he made his return to the Dodgers last night. How do you think the team should handle him the rest of the season? What would be your plan if you were Dodgers management, the manager of the Dodgers, Dave Roberts? How would you handle this situation with Kershaw?
Well, you have to make sure that he's going to stay healthy, and I don't even know if that's even possible at this point. We know his history with injuries, and we know the fact that when he does get injuries, it tends to come in bunches as well. Look, I think you need to not use him. You know,
I stagger his starts. I'd probably cut him back. So the last 3 seasons, Ron, I looked at it. He's pitched 22, played in 22, 22, and 10 games, going backwards. So realistically, he's at 17 right now. I don't want him making more than right now. He's estimated to make 24 starts. That puts him over the 22, which means he probably gets hurt again, and he's out for the playoffs. The Dodgers do not win the World Series without Clayton Kershaw in their lineup. It's a must.
Right.
And you've got to manage this, and if you got to be smart about it, even though you know the player is going to want to pitch.
Right.
And I just want.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. I mean, there is a limit for this guy.
He's 35 years old.
Yeah, we know that there's players out there just like him, right? It happens all the time in every sport. There's always guys that are always injured, whether it's nagging injuries and they miss, a couple of weeks. It always happens. And, Anthony Davis is one of those guys that we keep talking about in the NBA. This is one of those guys that we keep talking about in Major League Baseball. I mean, for the last, 4, 5, 6 years that we've been talking about it. And so we know his history. And history is telling us if they don't cut his time back, they're going to end up losing him at a crucial moment, and that is playoff time. And without him, they don't go anywhere.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I do want to thank those guys for making me have to relive that. So now it's in my brain. Thank you, gentlemen.
Yeah, I appreciate that too, as well.
It's in my head now. All I need to do was have a towel. No. Anyway, so Ron, it is time for future prospects.
You were better off being the water boy.
By the way, future prospects right now. And I just want to ask you how my time machine worked out with that USA women's soccer team. I think it did all right. I think my time machine might be a little better than your time machine. But anyway, so with that being said, we are going to give you 2 bold future predictions that we've gone into the future to see and to bring it back to you today so you know the outcome.
Yeah, but yours only goes like 4 days in the future.
Oh, here we go. Mine's going to the end of the NFL season, the playoffs.
Oh, so is mine.
With my first one, and that is the Carolina Panthers make the playoffs with Bryce Young in his rookie season. Again, that division's a little.
But I said that during.
Did you say Carolina Panthers? Though
I said Carolina Panthers would win the division.
All right, so we're on the same. We went to the same spot. Okay.
So recycled.
Yes. I can't with you. Okay, your number one future prospect.
All right, so my number one future prospect is Miami, New York Giants, Tampa Bay, and Seattle all made the playoffs, right? Last season. They all made the playoffs for the NFL. Yeah, forget it. It ain't happening. Not making it.
No, all 4.
All 4 of those are not making it.
Tampa, I agree with.
So Carolina is one of those teams that is making it.
They win the division.
Okay. Washington is going to make it
over the New York Giants.
Yes.
I said Dallas.
Miami is not going to make it.
Jets.
No. Baltimore will be there.
Baltimore.
Baltimore will be there. And of course Seattle's not making it. Why? Because the Rams will be there.
No,
I'm telling you.
Not the Rams.
Telling you.
Okay. Well, gentlemen, you need to tune in on September 5th for the NFL preview show. We're going to cover all 32 teams. September 5th. Mark it on your calendar. Don't miss it. It's Tuesday night. I watched last night. Pat's Super Bowl bound. Kenny watched last night. Pat's a Super Bowl bound. Kenny, you still hungover? Oh, yeah. September 5th. Don't miss it.
Yeah, but see, what he fails to know that they put a video of the Pats' first Super Bowl run, so he wasn't actually watching live TV.
That's it. He went. He was probably watching NFL Network where they were replaying some.
Yeah,
Kenny.
It was just a video.
I am Kenny. Kenny, Malik Cunningham. Go ahead. Please tell me he's the next great coming of whatever, because I can already see Kenny doing this. I can already see it. My number 2 future prospect, by the way, is that the Baltimore Orioles will not only make the playoffs, but they will get to the American League Championship Series, but lose to Texas. Texas will represent the American League in the World Series this year. Baltimore Orioles versus Texas to get to the World Series.
Yeah, that's going to be a ratings bonanza.
Major League Baseball, you don't think they're upset right now?
Yes. My second one. Remember Kadri?
Yeah.
The season he had with Colorado, then signs with Calgary. And remember the trade, Kachuk and Huberdeau?
Yeah.
Well, both of those guys are going to rebound. And Calgary's going to win the division.
They're going to play in the NBA?
No, there is.
I can do it too, bro. You think you're the only one? You want Mr. Recycle and all this other.
No. Huberdeau.
Generic. I can do it too.
Huberdeau. No. Have you ever heard of scoring on the rebound in a shot?
Yes.
For hockey?
Yes,
okay.
We've heard of
so
that. Okay.
There are rebounds in NHL too, you know. You know that game that they play on the ice?
No, I never heard of it.
Yeah. But Calgary Flames win the division based on those two.
Okay.
Making a rebound of their last season.
Good. They should. They're very good players.
Yeah.
Very good players. All right. That was our future prospects. We are going to move on to some game played on ice. And that would be a discussion about the Toronto Maple Leafs. They've signed goalie Martin Jones. Could this be the goaltender they need to get to the Cup?
No.
Why not?
Because he's not that good.
But this is a great move by the team. This is an insurance move because they've had problems with Samsonov where he's been injured. He hasn't played more than 44 games in his career. Matt Murray right now is going to be on the long-term injured list, the IL. We got to make sure we're correct on that, for a concussion. So they needed a solid backup that they knew they could count on to be able to play in games.
And he's a backup, and he's an older backup.
So he's not going to be worried about time. This might be a good move for them. This might be able to give them time to spell Samsonov more.
This isn't going to win a championship. You want to win a championship, you need a championship goaltender. They don't have one. Sorry. Samsonov is not the answer. I don't care what season he had last year.
27-10-5, 2.33 goals against a 919 save percentage. No, that's horrible.
No, it's good. It's
Swayman,
good.
what was a 920? He's a 0 point behind him.
Yeah.
So how could you say that Samsonov's not a good goaltender?
I didn't say he wasn't a good goaltender. He's not a championship goaltender.
Well, because he gets injured. So now here you go. You get him a backup that can take some time away. Matt Murray, again, is injured.
Have you looked at the numbers?
Yeah, his numbers aren't very good.
They're horrible.
299 goals against, 886 save percentage with Seattle.
Terrible.
But he was still 27-13-3 last season. It's pretty good. Considering those numbers, it's pretty good.
Playing in Seattle, right? Who were a playoff team and shouldn't have been. But everybody else in that division is just so bad. You know, I mean, you look good. You got wins. You got wins because the
is this that Western Conference, Eastern Conference thing again that you're going to give me? And then the Western Conference wins the NHL Stanley Cup?
Yep.
Yep. Western Conference thinks they win the Stanley Cup.
Yeah. Well, when you get a team like Florida getting
which you told us that the 8th team in the East was better than anything in the West, even the 1 seed, and yet they still. That's what I'm saying.
I'm just
the
saying.
West wasn't as bad as you gave them. Give them credit for.
They have 1 team. They have one team.
Toronto, cup bound. I got the year wrong. It was not last year, this year. I got it wrong.
Yeah. Even the Toronto Maple Leaf fans are laughing at that one.
No, they would not. They're giving me one of these right now. Thank you.
Oh, so there's only like 5 fans for the Toronto Maple Leafs.
That's all they need. That's all they need, my friend. It is pick and roll time.
It's time for pick and roll.
So we are in episode 32. So 32 years ago, 1991, these were all nominees for the 6th Man of the Year award, and we are going to rank them from 5 to 1. Def Left Shrimp, Dan Marley, Kevin McHale, Ricky Pierce, and Danny Ainge. I am first, so I will start us off with the correct list, and then Ron will give you a bunch of garbage. So for at number 5, sorry, Kenny, Thunder Dan. Dan Marley, 11.4 points, 4.5 rebounds, 2.9 assists.
Are you kidding me? Are you kidding?
He shot 43.1% from the field, 35.8 from 3, 74.1 from the free throw line. Those are not very good numbers. He was only a 3-time All-Star. He was a 2-time all defense. So you give him the all defense, but it doesn't put him ahead of Danny Ainge.
Oh, come on.
Who won 2 championships, scored more points.
He didn't win.
Shot better. He was a bet 11.5 points, 2.7 rebounds, 4 assists, 46.9% field goal percentage, 37.8% from 3 points. He was 2 percentage points better than Dan Marley, who everybody said was the greatest 3-point shooter. 84.6 from the free throw line, and a 1-time All-Star, Danny Ainge at number 4. At 3, Ricky Pierce. 14.9 points per game, 2.4 rebounds, and 1.9 assists. Again, almost shot 50%, 49.3% from the field, 32.2% from 3, 87.5% from the free throw line. These guys used to be able to. 1-time All-Star, 2-time 6th Man of the Year. At 2, Def Left Shrimp. I wanted to just see if you. Def Left Shrimp, 13.9 points per game, 6.2 rebounds, 3.4 assists. Again, 49.1% from the field, 38.4 from the 3-point line, 80.3 from the field free throw line. 3-time All-Star, 2-time 6th Man of the Year, 1-time All-NBA. But obviously, out of this list, Kevin McHale, who I don't think is a true number 6, but again, at some points he became that 6th man. 17.9 points per game, 7.3 rebounds, 1.7 assists, but 55.4% from the field. That's phenomenal. Not a very good 3-point shooter though. 26.1, 79.8 from the free throw line. 7-time All-Star. 1-time All-NBA, which blows my mind as well. Made the All-Rookie team. 6-time All-Defensive. 2-time 6th Man of the Year. And 3-time champion. Kevin McHale, my number 1.
Okay. For the record.
Def Left Shrimp never played defense. Good call.
For the record.
Yes.
I hated this pick and roll.
That's okay. I don't do it for you to like it.
Even Mitchell hated it. He got sick and he had to bow out.
Okay.
All right.
You should be at 5. Kenny's got Def Left Shrimp at 5.
Danny Ainge should not even be on this list.
He was a 6th Man of the Year. He was in there.
I don't care. He's garbage.
And that was for Portland, by the way.
Yeah. Woo. Woo.
All the Danny Ainge fans.
He's number 5. He's not even nearly as good as anybody on this list.
Kenny got Def Left Shrimp at number 5. Kenny got Def Left Shrimp at number 5.
Danny Ainge, number 5. 1 All-Star and 2 coattails. Yes, 2 coattails. 2 coattails. Number 4 is Ricky Pierce. I like his points. 1 All-Star, 2 sixth man awards, and all the other stats that you gave. But Dan Marley, 3 All-Stars, 2 all-defensive team. definitely my number 3. And number 2 is the shrimp. Shrimp. It really wasn't even close. Like Kevin McHale was just clearly the only true
Which is weird that he's
player on
the
this
sixth
list.
man of the year. Like, I don't remember him really coming off the bench that much and being the sixth man. So,
Well, he was so good as a 5th man, they decided to give him 5th and 6th.
Good. I like it. I like where you went there.
And the sad part is Danny Ainge played at the same time as McHale. So how could they both be the 6th man?
No, because Danny Ainge was Portland.
I know he was Portland that year, but
So how did Ron? You should be thanking Danny for 2008. Kenny is living in the past, my friend. Especially with the Patriot comment. Kenny, what is wrong with Kenny?
I should be thanking Danny for 2008. What? Because he got Kevin Garnett?
Great deal, though. You got to admit.
Yeah. So when we do the top 5 GMs, he still won't be on it. But
oh man. All right, my friend. It is prediction time. We've got a full house here with us tonight, so I'm sure we'll get some participation on this. Rough week last week for everybody. Ron, you came out on top, 3-4, 2-5 for me and James, and 1-5 for Kenny. Not so surprising. But I will say this: if you can give us, I had to. Sorry, but yeah, it was a bad week, James. Bad week. We had some upsets too. But
James is treading water.
James 500 right now. Yeah, he's at 50%. So if you are live and would like to participate, just give us your picks as we call the games, and we will make sure your name gets on our list. So we are starting off with Major League Baseball. Two good series this week. Tonight, they both start, and the first one is the Baltimore Orioles at the Seattle Mariners. I am a believer in Baltimore right now. They have been consistently good all year. They lead the AL East, and I believe they will win this series. So I went with the Baltimore Orioles.
I did as well. They're just a better team. I'm not so sure that Seattle hasn't packed it in already, because when you're down at number 4, I mean, you're not coming back from that. I mean, you have to climb over 3 teams, and that ain't happening. Not at this point. Not when it's that big of a gap.
Yeah, and I think we're in trouble because Kenny picked Baltimore. We might be in trouble.
Well, he's just trying to be more.
Maybe be more. James went Baltimore. Manny, if you're still on, give us a pick. Baltimore at Seattle, 3-game series. Also, Ron, this week, starting today, Texas Rangers at the San Francisco Giants, 3-game set. Who do you got?
Yeah, I'm going Texas Rangers. I'm not a Giant believer. I just don't think that team. I don't think the team is really all that good. And the Texas Rangers, I mean, they're firing on all cylinders, and I'm going to go Texas on that. I wouldn't even be surprised if it's a sweep.
Kenny and James both went with the Rangers as well. I also am going with the Rangers. I love the addition of Max Scherzer. I think that they are the best hitting team in baseball. And as well as San Francisco Giants have played, I think the Dodgers are going to start to rise to the top. And I think that's just going to make the Giants kind of fall quicker. WNBA action tomorrow night. We got the Connecticut Sun at the Dallas Wings. Every time I think I've figured out who's going to win these WNBA matchups, somehow they come back and bite me. But I am going with the Connecticut Sun. They are the far superior team in this matchup. Doesn't mean anything, though, with the WNBA.
I also picked Connecticut. I like that team. I think that team can get fired up for, any number of reasons.
Because of the Sun? You got to admit, that was a good one. That was a good one.
I do like it.
Go ahead.
But yeah, I went with the Sun too.
Get fired up.
Here comes the Sun.
Get fired up with the Sun. I like it. New slogan for them. Maybe we should copyright that.
We should actually.
On August 15th, my friend, This is going to be a back-to-back. This is the first of the back-to-backs for them. New York Liberty at the Las Vegas Aces. We made this pick last week as well, and the Aces got smoked. I think they lost by like 30 points. But I am still a believer in the Aces. I'm going Aces here at home. Back-to-back, though. They're playing like 2 nights this week. 15th and what is it? The 15th and the 17th this week. But we're going with the 15th matchup. First one. Liberty at the Aces. James went Aces as well.
You know what? I'm going to go Liberty again.
This was your one of your victories over us. Kenny went Liberty though, so I am feeling better about our pick, James. I am feeling better about our pick. Poor Kenny. Got a MLS.
Did he have a better winning percentage than you?
Who, Kenny?
Yeah.
I don't think so. It's pretty close.
Bring up those numbers again.
I don't. I already got rid of the. I'm pretty sure it's pretty
convenient.
Tight. Hold on. I can check. You want me to check? I will check. Hold on. Let's
Yes.
check. Let's check. Let's see if you are correct. Where am I going? Let's go to Discord if you want. Follow us on Discord, Sports Unfolded. You can follow us on Discord. Kenny is at 54%. I am at 57%.
Wow. Okay.
Which means that bigger number. He is tied. He's 1 point behind you. 1 percentage point behind you.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. 54%. Kenny knows. Follow us on Discord. 8-11. So tonight you got MLS action. You got Inter Miami CF versus Charlotte FC. And they're in this weird tournament thing. So but I'm going obviously Messi here. He scored like 7 goals in his 3 games. He's like destroying. It goes to show you, it's like putting college kids versus a pros. And they were like, oh, Alabama could beat a pro team. And there's no comparison. What he's doing, I'm going Miami.
Yeah. We're all probably riding on that bandwagon because Messi is the better player in the league now. And so it's going to be a very messy situation for Charlotte for sure.
Kenny went Charlotte. So I'm feeling pretty good about our pick again. Kenny, what are you doing, buddy? James went Miami. We both went Miami. Tomorrow night, New York Jets at the Carolina Panthers, preseason opener for both teams. Your pick.
Why not? I'm just going to go Carolina. I don't think that the Jets will play anybody, to be honest with you.
Yeah, this is their second game, actually. Yes. James going Jets. Yeah, so depending on where they go, yes, does Aaron play? But
this is why I don't like doing the preseason game.
I know, buddy, but I'm trying to get some. It's called substance. We need substance. Kenny went
but you
Jets.
can't abuse it.
Kenny went Jets.
Nothing.
That was good. That was another good one. Substance abuse it. Kenny and James both went Jets. We both went Carolina Panthers because I went with the Panthers as well. I think they're going to be a little deeper. So our streak has ended for NASCAR. None of us had a top 5 finisher last week. James, I think your driver was 1 position away from last. So we have some work to do with the Verizon 200 at the Brickyard. That's in Indianapolis. It's a road course. We need to pick a top 5 driver, Ron. Who do you got?
Yeah, so I figured, all right, so the Red Sox, they stink. Let's be honest with that. So I figured, maybe, the ownership group are better at something else. And so I went with the Fenway Racing team and decided to go with Brad Keselowski. Keselowski.
Okay. James went Martin Truex Jr.
Yeah, let's go with that number 1 guy.
Road course driver. I like it. I went AJ Allmendinger, and he's raced well in this course. So I'm going out on a hunch here. He's had a top 10 finish at this track. So really good.
10. Wow, that's really good.
He's It's closer to 5, is it not? All right, we got one more to pick here, and that is Women's World Cup. We've got the U.S. Oh, no. On 8/12, you got Australia versus France in the World
What was
Cup.
that? What happened?
I was about to say U.S., and then I said, "Oh, they're not in it." Oh, poor things.
Oh, yeah.
That was a. Okay, because they should have been in.
Yeah,
Just weren't performing well. So I am going Australia here, the home country. I feel like they'll have the momentum. They haven't lost a match yet. France, I like those fries. You like what they're shaking. Look at them. James, come on, buddy.
I don't think they were invented in France.
You want a history lesson? No, we're not doing this. Okay.
I went with Australia. They're the better team.
You went with Australia. Kenny, do you have a pick? James going France to
I have
Australia.
no ties in this anymore.
No more. It's all over, my friend. It's all over. All right. Well, that is our predictions. Again, thank you for your participation. If you'd like to donate stars and bits, feel free to do so. Aussie. Oh, Kenny went Aussie. Feel free to do so.
Daddy, the cartoon dog.
Oh, boy. So I will say this, Ron. We've had a great show. Mitchell Belacone, the author of Crucifiers Get Dropped, Lance Armstrong book on Amazon now. Please, if you haven't seen the show earlier, tune in after and check that out. What a great interview that was. Ron, before we get into our final thoughts, though, and how we normally end our show, we always tell the fans out there how they can sponsor this great show, one of the greatest shows anywhere. If you would relay that to these wonderful people out there.
Yeah, you know what, Eric? I can do that, and I will. All you have to do is just send us an email to that awesome whip that I just hit the button by accident.
That one that just disappeared.
The one that's right there right now, ribroadcasting.media@gmail.com. We can send you out all, not just some of it, but all of the information that you need to sponsor this show in any aspect that you find fit. It could be a future prospects. So if you're dealing with futuristic items, such as some fancy watches or some
Smart
cell
home.
phones that
Yeah.
now transport you from one state to another, maybe it be Michigan to Ohio, or just a state of confusion to a state of bliss.
A state of bliss. Yes, very good. Very good.
Yeah, just send it to us and we'll get you all the information, and we'll be happy to do that. It costs less than going to your local coffee shop and getting a coffee, and there's a lot of kids around the area now. Getting a large coffee and a donut.
Listen, we're 4 months away. Our goal was to get a sponsor for 2023 for Sports Unfolded. Let your friends know, share the show, send it wherever you got to send it. Let's get a sponsor for Sports Unfolded. Continue to help us grow. We are over Rhode Island Broadcasting, over 10,000 followers. Sports Unfolded is approaching 1,000 followers on their social media platforms as well. So many different people are watching and tuning in. So you will have thousands of eyes on your business every single week. Ron, thank you for that. It is final thought time. And believe it or not, I only have one tonight. I know that's a shocker for you because I'm usually Mr. 2, 3, 4, but I have one. And my final thought is on the Baltimore Orioles organization and the, whatever they want to call it, suspension of their analyst, Kevin Brown, because he made comments based off of the fact that the team has stunk for years. And he didn't even say anything wrong. All he said was that the Orioles had failed to beat the Tampa Bay Rays for several years in a row now. And they had an opportunity in their last series to finally get over the hump and beat them in the year-long series. And the organization has basically told him he's suspended because of those comments. When you sensitize people based on the fact that you don't want your fans to know, who watch these games and understand that your team stunk for years, there's something wrong with that organization if that's your mentality. This is why you've continued to fail. Be honest and upfront with yourselves. Look yourselves in the mirror and say, look, our team did stink. Great point. Look at us now. What a great opportunity there is for that organization to make right on this. And I've also heard that they won't allow them to even make certain guys' names mentioned during the broadcast. Like, you can't even have certain guys' names mentioned during a broadcast. It's unreal. It's unbelievable. Like, how do you sensitize them to not even be able to say a player's name? This man should be back on the air. This should have never happened. It was disgusting. Ron, that's my final thought. I can't believe it. The one benefit we have here at Sports Unfolded, we can say what we want. We can't get sensitized. We're not owned by anybody. But the fact that the Baltimore Orioles own this broadcast and that's how they want to treat it, if I'm an Orioles fan, I'm not even watching this anymore. Make them lose some money. Make them understand that you want to know the facts. Let them speak the facts. There's nothing wrong with the facts. That's my final thought.
That was a good one. Eric, I feel a little grumpy.
You? I don't believe it.
Just a little.
Just a little?
Look, I have come to the conclusion that the sports world is changing, and especially how we view it. Now, I was a little disgusted yesterday while trying to find the Patriots game, and you come around and you notice, well, NFL Plus, right? NFL Plus. Well, if they're going to air the games on NFL Plus, you're going to have to get a charge of $9.99 to watch it. Okay, so you have to pay per month on that. You have to pay per month for Amazon. You have to pay per month for this. And you have to pay per month for that, right? The way you watch sports just, a short 5 years ago, where you actually didn't have to pay for the viewing. Well, that is all changing. And because of the NFL's just down and out greed, it is nothing but greed. You're going to see less and less of football unless you pay for every game. And that's basically what we're going to be doing in probably less than 5 years. So when all these contracts are all up, guess what? You're going to be paying per month just to watch a regular game on a regular week. I mean, if they're getting away with $9.99 for a month for preseason stuff, wait, it's going to get worse. And it's not going to stop there, people. It's going to extend it to the NBA after that, and the Major League Baseball. And then before you know it, Eric, you'll be sitting just watching hockey games with me.
All right.
Until
is that the game they play on ice?
Ends.
They play that on ice? Is that the game?
Yeah.
Okay.
Until that contract ends, and you'll start seeing some things getting paid.
Listen,
and that's how it's going. Because I'm at the point now where it's not even worth it anymore. When do you when's enough money for you greedy?
Don't say it. Sons of guns. Sons of guns. We'll go with that.
Effers.
Or that one.
Like, it is just greed. Stop with the insanity. You're already making billions.
Mm-hmm.
That's not enough. That's not enough. You have to take every ounce of dignity from sports.
No, listen, well said. I'm going to be honest with you. There's a lot of rumors that at some point they're going to try to do that with the Super Bowl, where it's going to be a pay-per-view. Or again, think about it. If Amazon Prime ends up getting it, you have to have the subscription to be able to watch the Super Bowl at some point. So it is going to change. And it's unfortunate because I can remember listening on a radio. You know what I mean? When I was a little older, that's how I listened to that first Patriots playoff game against the Jets. And it's like, it's so tough now because everything you want to watch, you have to pay for, and it's unfortunate. So, but very well said, Ron. Thank you for bringing that up. This has been Sports Unfolded. What a great show tonight. Want to thank again our special guest, Mitchell Belacone, author of the book Lance Armstrong's Crucifiers Get Dropped. It is available on Amazon. Please check that out. Pick it up. It is available as a Kindle as well, so you don't even have to get a copy of it physically if you want to just put it right onto your Kindle. But what a great show. James, you've been amazing. Kenny, thank you for joining live. Manny, thanks for joining live. Stephanie, thank you for joining us during the interview portion. If you're still on, thank you for still being here. Everybody that is going to watch us afterwards, continue to share our show. Follow us on all our social media platforms. It is so important that we continue to gain viewers and views. We are so excited to continue to grow our brand. Let's get that sponsor. And all we ever ask for every single week, Ron, is peace on earth.
Have a great day, everybody.